We're going to start with a nun study. This is the kind of study I like to do in college, nun. It's a study about a group of nuns, and it was actually conducted about 10 years ago, but it was based on a group of nuns who went to who were assigned to a convent in the 1920s. And let me explain. Harvard University did some work about phrases, about how we write about life experiences, and then they correlated key words and key approaches to these phrases. They could actually show that depending on how you wrote about yourself, your past life history, they could tell whether that person was happier than the next person. So they could rate levels of happiness of that person based on how they wrote about their past life experiences. They went back, did studies on this, came back with a very strong correlation, and could clearly tell that you can have a direct correlation between journaling about life experiences and profiling that person to say this person is slightly happier than the next person, etc. So with that information, this gave them the opportunity now to go back in time and look at periods of time when individuals wrote biographies about themselves or journaled about their past life, and were able to categorize those individuals based on how perceived their happiness was. And with that information, if they could step back in time, now they could look forward in someone's life and say what happened to those individuals based on those classifications. What did, for instance, the most happiest individuals, the nuns, how did their life turn out versus the least happier rated nuns? How did their life turn out? The reason why why this whole concept of the convent was important, because it was a controlled environment. It's not like nuns go out partying on Saturday and some of them, smoke and some of them don't. It's a fairly controlled group. They had the same type of diet, same type of daily programs within reason. And so they kind of took that statistical variance out of it, and they could focus more wholly on what did the happier versus the least happy, what did that constitute as far as life satisfactions. And what came out of this was astounding. It's called the Nun Study. You can Google it. For every 1% increase in the number of positive sentences, there was a 1.4% decrease in mortality rate. Okay, the happiest nuns lived 10 years longer than the least happy nuns. Now, let me just back up. The first thing they did find out is that nuns live a long time. because they all lived a long time, okay? So I can't be a nun, I guess I can be a priest, but I don't know about, they have their own set of circumstances, but the nuns do live a long time. That's one of the advantages they should put in the sign-up sheet there. There's a lot of disadvantages, but that would be one advantage. But 10 years, when you're talking about the average lifespan of about age 70, 10 years is a huge difference in life, okay? By age 80, the most cheerful nuns group only lost 25% of their population, while the least cheerful group, 60% of them, had passed away at that point. Cheerful nuns had an 80% chance of getting to age 85. The most cheerful nuns had an 80% chance of getting to age 85, not age 72. Okay, now this is back in the 1920s, not today. And while the least cheerful nuns had only a 54% chance of reaching age 85, by age 90, the cheerful sisters were still 65% of them were still living, while the least cheerful sisters survived only 30%. And 54% of the happy nuns reached age 94, while only 15% of the least happy nuns reached that age. The reason I bring this up is interesting. Okay, it's an interesting study, and anytime you have a workshop, you want to introduce some of this. But as we talk about happiness, we're not doing it, my point is, we're not doing it at the substitute of health. We could also show, and we won't today, the correlation between recovery in emergency rooms, the amount of emergency room visits, recoveries from sickness, recovery from disease, the ability to connect to a disease and not connect with a disease. All these things have positive correlations between happier individuals, least happy, and less happy. I'm not using the right terminology there. Cindy could say that a lot more. Her delivery of eloquence would be a lot better than mine. But there's a correlation that can't be denied between health and happiness.